And so gradually by year 7 or 8, I hit the 1 crore mark. COVID was the biggest challenge for me. Yeah, so my portfolio went from like 63 lakhs to about 37 lakhs. He had 5 crore worth of shares. They were only in just one stock. That is what became my aha moment that I want to invest in equities. I've been able to generate like 200 to 300% return since I started my portfolio in 2015. 8.4 crores now. The benchmark to be classified as an HNI. So that would be the first big milestone. But my longer term milestone ever since probably last 10 years was that 100 crores is a good sum of corpus.
Thanks, Gurjot, first of all, for welcoming us in. And the first crore is a big milestone, right? How did you plan for it?
If I talk about it honestly, I don't think I ever planned going from 0 to 1 crore, right? It's a journey, it's a process, right? I had this concept in my mind, right? That salary is limited, expenses are forever. And so you must always save for a rainy day, right? From 2013, I kept on saving and accumulating my salary every month. And in year 1, I was able to hit like a 5 lakh portfolio. In year 2, it went up to about 15 lakhs with investments in equity plus your salary and investment every month. And so gradually by year 7 or 8, I hit the 1 crore mark in 2020. COVID was the biggest challenge for me, where my portfolio dropped by 40%.
And like a big sum of money, right?
Yeah, so my portfolio went from like 63 lakhs to about 37 lakhs in just a month. Then I plowed, in fact, more investments into equity during COVID time. And I was like, right, if the world is no longer going to be there, then there's no use of the money anyway, right? So I'm going to bet on a better future tomorrow, that the world is going to come out of COVID. And so, yeah, the same year, I was able to hit the 1 crore.
So, Gurjot, just to understand and get a perspective on how much can you grow your wealth in equity from that 1 crore portfolio, how much is returns and how much is your initial invested corpus?
So I'll have to think about that number. But my portfolio CAGR from 1st January 2015 till date in June 2024, my portfolio CAGR is about 23%. In terms of the 1 crore capital investment and the return, maybe 40% would be the capital, 60% would be the return.
Wow.
The major chunk of returns have come in the last 4 years, where again I've been able to multiply my portfolio multiple times. I've been able to generate like 200 to 300% return since I started my portfolio in 2015.
You said you invested in equity and that is what helped in wealth creation. So, curious about how did you learn all of this? And then, within equity, mutual funds, stocks, how did you do that picking?
Firstly, I'm very, very grateful that I got a chance to work with ICICI Bank. Basically, I got exposure to every single thing that a bank does, right? But I was mostly focused on mutual funds initially. But one day when I was sitting in my office, one of my customers, I saw in his Demat account, he had 5 crore worth of shares, right? In 2013. And they were only in just one company, one stock, that is ITC.
Wow.
Later on, I discovered that he was an employee of ITC, and through ESOPs, which he received through the years, he never sold his ESOPs, and they had grown tremendously in value, right? So that is what became my aha moment that, okay, I want to invest in equities. Most of my wealth has been through direct stock picking.
Okay.
I've had limited exposure to mutual funds in those 7-8 years. So that's pretty much how I did it. Making mistakes, learning, and picking stocks.
So, how did you find that learning time? I mean, what motivated you, if I may ask? Yeah.
No, so it's all about priorities in your life, right? When I was 23, 24, a lot of people at that age have priorities to be with their friends, to party over the weekends, go out, right? And do a lot of those kind of things, which I would also do, but probably less than 20% of the time, right, than other people are doing, right? And the remaining time I would dedicate and devote to try to learn about the financial markets, read up about companies, and basically upscale, gain new knowledge, and just having a curious mind and wanting to know about any single thing that I put my mind to, wanting to become good at that. If you can prioritize well in your life, you will achieve all the goals that you have set out for. What do you want to do with your time?
And how does your portfolio look like?
So my portfolio is right now 75% into direct equity. I have about 4-5% in mutual funds. I am currently sitting on about 12% of liquid investments, which I've set aside for any kind of emergencies. Plus,
Absolutely.
also if there is any kind of market volatility to take advantage of that. So that's 90% of my portfolio. Then I have about 4% in NPS, about 4% in bonds, and a couple of percent in PPF, EPF, and
Got it.
those kind of things. So
Got
that's the breakup of my portfolio.
Is salary the only source of income, or do you have other alternate source passive income as well?
So actually, I have multiple sources of income. Most of my passive income comes from dividends directly from my stock portfolio. So I would get about 5 lakhs plus of dividends currently.
Okay.
One big IndiGrid InvIT is what I've invested in. That gives about 2.5 lakhs, and the remaining stock portfolio gives the remaining amount, right? So that covers most of my passive income. Then I get some portion of passive income from property investment, which I made a couple of years back, which is giving me a 6% kind of yield.
That's like rental.
Yeah.
You put it out for rent.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And then I've got income from your normal interest from the bank. Trading, I'm also doing a little bit of trading from the stock market. Yeah, I think that would be most of my passive.
Okay. Life happens, salary increases, so does your lifestyle, right? To ensure that you have, enough savings and have that discipline to increase savings every year, how did you go about that?
So there are two things. One, I was fortunate that I was mainly living with my parents. So my fixed expenses were relatively lower than if you're living independently.
Okay.
But then the discretionary expenses was something that I was always in control of, right? So even though I would indulge in buying the latest phone or driving a relatively fancy car or even going for some vacations, but my salary increments were, I would say, more than 15 to 20% CAGR over a long period of time. I was able to manage my lifestyle inflation, plus also aggressively save more than 50% of my salary almost since I started working, right? And it would have been as high as 80-90% with lifestyle expenses. Obviously, the savings rate comes down, but still it would be more than 50%.
So in your journey, right, in terms of your savings, are there any hacks, loans, etc., that helped you sort of accelerate this journey?
I think it's very important to have a saver's mindset if you want to achieve financial freedom, right? So there are two big sort of savings hacks that have helped me, and it's actually very, very popular now. Almost everyone uses it, but even then, a lot of people don't use it smartly. So the number one thing is credit cards, right? Credit cards can be a huge debt trap if not used wisely. I would have saved close to 4 to 5 lakhs just by using credit cards, right, over the last 10 years. Another thing, because I'm working in consulting, I would have a travel related project in a lot of places. So whenever I would travel, if possible, try to take the same airline or try to stay in the same hotel chain, right? So having loyalty programs, right? Signing up for loyalty programs. That saved a good chunk of expenses for me as well, right? I mean, I was able to accumulate more than 1 lakh Vistara points, which sponsored to and fro return tickets from Delhi to London for me and my wife. Yeah.
Wow.
And those tickets were about for 2 lakh rupees.
Wow.
So it's about having a saver's mindset.
Yeah.
And if you have a saver's mindset, you will achieve financial freedom fairly quickly. Yeah.
So, Gurjot, I saw your baby pictures. They're very, very cute.
Thank you.
And as I understand, I think family and babies are expensive. But how did you plan through this? And what are your tips for someone who, is on this way and, planning of finances along with family?
So, firstly, I think this is one area where a regular salaried employee generally gets a much better benefit than any business owner, right? So the delivery expenses for my child were around 1.25 lakhs, and all of that was covered by my employer insurance and my spouse's employer insurance.
Okay.
Now, coming to the expenses for the child. So, of course, on a monthly basis, your expenses do go up by at least 15 to 20%. So, of course, it does reduce your savings a little bit. but then you can't compare, right, the joy of family with a little bit of
absolutely.
savings, right? So, of course, I would suggest that if you're doing some kind of family planning, ensure you are at least saving 25-30% of your income, even post that, right? Else, you will be in a situation of living paycheck to paycheck,
Yeah.
or you would not have any kind of savings on a monthly basis, and then you are just relying on whatever you've saved in the past. And that is not a good situation to do family planning in, or at least I would not do it.
Yeah.
So
So Gurjot, you mentioned, your employer's insurance and your wife's employer's insurance covered all of the expenses during child. But outside of that, do you have another one, and would you recommend to have or not?
absolutely, I recommend having another health insurance cover from outside, because your job is not guaranteed, right, to last forever. Whenever you quit your company, you also lose your insurance coverage. Although some companies do give you the option to continue the same health insurance cover, but typically the premiums they might charge or the benefits they might provide might not be according to your liking, right? Because a group insurance is very different from a personal health insurance, right?
Okay.
So the
Yeah.
employers typically have a group insurance cover, and those premiums are way lesser than the premiums you will get charged for your personal health insurance. So definitely I recommend it. I have it as well. Although I also took another group cover because there's a very interesting product being offered out there. Took it from ICICI Lombard, where for a 12,000 rupee premium, they were covering 50 lakh rupees worth of sum insured, right?
Okay.
And covering all major network hospitals, cashless reimbursement, all major features of any health insurance cover, right?
Okay.
And which would typically cost you 30 to 35,000 for an individual health insurance. So this product I got was for specifically ICICI Bank customers. So
Okay.
some bank customers could avail of this product.
So, surprising, Gurjot, you didn't mention about EMI. So you never had a loan all your life?
No, I did have a car loan, and I took a 5-year car loan from SBI. And even in that, I had like a saver's mindset.
Okay.
How can I optimize the loan either from a reduced rate of interest or in a way that I could effectively utilize the funds from that loan according to my liking, right? So I took a overdraft facility loan from SBI. So the loan was set up in a way that you would have a monthly EMI going of, let's say, about 20,600 rupees was my monthly EMI, which would get just cut on a particular date of the month. But then you could park surplus savings into that account, which would reduce the interest component for the duration the surplus savings are there. So, for example, if you have 2 lakh rupees of surplus savings, so now the interest component would be calculated on 8 lakh rupees.
Okay.
And
I did not
whatever
know about
EMI which goes from that,
Okay.
right? Over a period of 5 years, I was able to save about 15-20% of the interest cost. So it's a flexible way of taking a loan with pretty much the same rate of interest as your normal car loan.
Oh, that's very interesting. I did not know about that. So, Gurjot, what's the next milestone? So, 1 crore is out of the court, right?
$1 million is, I think,
8 crores.
the benchmark. Yeah, 8.4 crores now is the benchmark to be classified as an HNI. So that would be the first big milestone, which I hope to achieve within the next 3 to 5 years.
Wow, that's nice.
And that's when you could also possibly say that you're financially free, right? You've achieved financial freedom. So that would be the next big milestone for me. But my longer term milestone ever since probably last 10 years was that 100 crores is a good sum of corpus to probably live the kind of life that you want.
Quickly wrapping it up, I think any key takeaways you have for us who are on this journey, still not reached the first milestone yet, anything you would have for us?
I think it's very, very important to save aggressively, right? And invest that money. It is possible for everyone to achieve financial freedom. And so life is all about maintaining a fine balance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those who can do it can achieve all things in financial freedom as well. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Gurjot.
Navya.